All right, this is the Dales Report, and happy to be joined with the CEO of Mindcure Health, Kelsey Ramsden, back to the podcast. Kelsey, how's things? How's summer?
Summer is fast. It's nearly
Isn't
over. I don't know what happened. Most of us didn't take any, we didn't really slow down, which is okay. It's been a great summer.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I love the weather, and I've said this a few times in previous interviews, but I'm ready for Q4. Like, bring it on, because I think it's going to be very monumental for this industry, as we've discussed in the past. You still agree with that?
Absolutely. I think we're going to see a lot of activity. I think a lot of people, are scheduled for some pretty important pieces of news to come out. If you look at the catalysts across the industry, I think this quarter is going to be transformative for the folks who've been, kept their foot on the gas.
Yes. Well, speaking of transformative, I want to begin with the big news late last week, as you released a beta version of iSTRYM. And as discussed in the past, iSTRYM is a digital therapeutic platform for psychedelics to partner clinics across North America. So with full commercial distribution to all clinics expected in Q1 of 2022. So that's exciting, to say the least. So things are getting real in terms of upcoming commercialization of your signature platform. So why is this announcement important, and what's involved in the beta version?
Great. So why it's important is, I think across the industry, I felt a little bit like you remember that Elvis song, a little less conversation, a little more action. And so I think what our team has done has been get straight to work and deliver things on time.
Yeah.
And the delivery of this on time has been an important catalyst, because in under 6 months from the time that we started deving the tech product to getting a beta out is something to be really proud of.
Yes.
What it means for investors is that we deliver, and I think, like I mentioned, that's important. I think the second piece is getting it into beta and quickly iterating. Anyone who's done a bit of tech development knows the sooner you can get it in the hands of the users, the quicker you can listen to their feedback and understand what's really working, what could be adapted, the quicker you can get to the full commercial rollout. So that's really important for us, because we know that, as we have ketamine available, but soon to come is MDMA, psilocybin, et cetera. Right. And we want the product to be positioned to really execute across molecules, as well as give us an opportunity to scale globally. So now that we have it in the States, we can focus on other jurisdictions and start listening. Different areas are going to use the product slightly differently.
It's exciting how much growth when you look about where we were 12 months ago to where we are now. And everything that you're talking about has come to fruition. What's that mean to you? Obviously, like a person of action in your team that you've has this rolled out. And as you said, the mission statement that you want to continue to reiterate to your investor base.
I mean, what it means to me is celebrating our team. We've grown quickly. A lot, some folks have been in this game for 3, 5, 7 years, even longer when you could look at some of the folks who are in the nonprofit. But we started a year ago. Yeah. And it means that our team is strong, and I'm proud of building the team that we've got. I'm proud that we're execution focused. I think what it means for me around the vision is it's just confidence building, because you can have a belief in a vision and say you want to build a thing, but to actually deliver it is a different skill set altogether.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is just remaining focused. One of the things that we certainly wanted to avoid was repeating some of the mistakes that we've seen in cannabis, where people raised some money, had an ability to make a variety of moves, and started doing everything. Mm-hmm. And we've really taken the opposite approach, narrowing our focus and delivering on the things that we know can deliver value. And so I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I'm seeing, and good for you, and congrats. I'm seeing as much as cannabis and psychedelics seem to be attached to the hip from an investor base, they trade completely opposite from each other. And I know we've gone through the summer doldrums, but as we get ready for Q4, it's going to be exciting. So based off of this announcement, what kind of penetration do you think iSTRYM could make into the psychedelic assisted clinical market in North America once it's fully developed and launched?
Yeah, so our goal for this MVP is to have 10 clinics operational. There's two reasons for that. One is we want to get really good feedback. So have a variety of different clinics involved, but we also want to make sure that we don't overwhelm ourselves with the ability to iterate. So when you have too many clinics on the system during the MVP, which for the folks who don't know is minimum viable product.
I know
Then
we talk
you know,
about this every day, and the average person is just like, what? Anyway, go on. Sorry.
I know sometimes I have to remind myself. So we want to make sure that we can iterate on the product. So our dev team isn't just listening, but we're also adapting.
Right.
And what that means for penetration is that it also allows our sales team to develop relationships for greater scale. So our focus is starting in the States with ketamine clinics, moving on to Canada with ketamine clinics, and then looking, to other jurisdictions where psychedelics are legal across molecules. So
Right.
the UK, South America, and starting to develop those protocols with partners globally.
What markets do you plan to focus on within the US? Can you share that right now? And if so, like, is there certain markets that you find may flourish more than others?
Yeah, I think coastal markets are really important for us
Okay.
because it just comes down to population,
Right.
right?
Of course.
So greater population in a smaller area and people who are more open to early adoption. So we spent a lot of time looking at strategy of adoption models and who can take on new products in which way, who can communicate clearly around what they want their product to adapt to. So for us, that looks, like both coasts and a couple of spots in the middle where there's large population base.
Mm-hmm.
I think candidly, pain is everywhere,
Yeah.
whether it's depression, anxiety, PTSD, pain management. So the market is vast and there are a lot of places to go. But like I mentioned, we want to make sure that we're going to the places where the penetration is early, and then
Yes.
secondarily where people are more willing to give concrete feedback so that we can adapt the model with precision and speed.
Are you finding, as you said, anybody that needs help mentally, is there a specific demographic you're seeing more of, or is it across the board from a young age to elderly people?
It's not specific, which is not surprising
Mm.
in many ways. And even though, we don't have clinics, we don't offer care directly, we get 10 to 15 inbounds a day just with people who say, do you know someone who
Hmm.
how can I get a referral to a clinic, etc. So we have a bit of a system set up that way. And then of course, as iSTRYM continues to build out, we'll be able to say, okay, what area you're in, these are the people that are running iSTRYM, etc. But no, I would say it's both good and bad. It's good for the market of psychedelics because we know that there's a lot of people who can utilize the products that we offer. It's
Yeah.
bad because it's sad to be in a position where there's such need. Uh,
Hmm.
but here we sit,
Yeah. Well,
so
continue the conversation, right?
that's right.
Another important component featured in the iSTRYM platform is the Speak.ai integration feature, which allows for seamless voice to text transcription of anything the patient may say during their medicine experience. So, I'd like to understand more, how effective will this work? Meaning, like, how accurate is the technology given the potential that, say, for example, a patient may not pronunciate as clearly if they were at baseline, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. So NLP is a phrase that we use all the time
Okay.
over here, which is natural language processing. It's somewhat new, but not, in the terms of technology, it's probably 3 years old, which is, but what's unique about our use of it is the AI behind it that starts to create sentiment clouds. So to your point, how do we utilize this? When you're in session, there's two options. It's either when you're in session or when you're out of session, meaning
Mhm.
you've left the therapist's office and you're back at home.
Yep.
So when you're in session, some people feel more comfortable having the whole thing audio taped so that they can review their transcript.
Okay.
It is surprising actually how well the transcription works. And in the cases where, to your point, you may have kind of a different cadence to your speaking, or you may kind of enunciate differently when you're but generally people aren't like slurred right out, or it's not like some of the scenes you'd see in the movies.
Well, I find it
But
interesting that you're going to be able to like actually hear a recording of what the experience was like afterwards. What'll that do mentally for a patient? I would think that would be very interesting for them to hear as they learn more about themselves.
well, it
Without,
helps people to understand the articulation of a thing. So we can remember a sentiment. We can be like, oh, that was kind of a scary part, or I remember that was
Mhm.
really, enlightening. But to hear the words that you say is important for
Yeah,
a lot of patients. But what I think is even more material for the therapist and the patient is once people leave the building and they're doing their journaling or their updates or whatever is prescribed by the therapist in terms of their integration plan. And that creates these sentiment maps and starts to map and pattern how we're communicating in general. So it's less tied to specific words and more around how are we progressing. And that goes back to the therapist. So we kind of have this loop of communication that was not previously available. So I
yeah,
think that's really fascinating as well. The ability of these algorithms and the AI to start helping a patient
of
see
course.
here's how you're communicating en masse.
This is the positive of technology, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, look, the more an individual can be a colleague in their care, can be informed, the quicker we can get these turnarounds on information, because getting access to therapy and getting access to therapists is really a long thing. So whatever we can do in the platform to make the carry of that lighter for the therapist and the speed of it quicker for the patient,
yeah.
it's transformative.
Is there a mobile app version of this under development? And if so, do you have an idea what the subscription model will look like for both patients and therapists?
So the MVP is a mobile app. So
Oh, it
with the
is. Okay.
therapist, for the therapist, it's on your laptop or on your, tablet. For the patient, it's on your phone.
Okay.
And the subscription model depends on carrier. So some of the clinics are wrapping it right into the price of therapy. Some of the clinics are, paying for the therapist model, and then they're charging about $15 a patient per month for the
Mm-hmm.
patient to have access to it. So it depends on the location. Different setups are available for different therapists depending on their preferences.
Okay. Good to know. Wanted to touch on some of the price action that took place in the month of August that saw three separate insider buyers buying stock, including yourself and CFO Michael Wolf. So, as you know, the sector has gone through the summer doldrums as far as trading is concerned. So, quick question. So, what prompted you to buy your own stock now in advance of the company's iSTRYM rollout? Sure,
Well,
people
I
would
mean,
like to know.
yeah, sure, fair. I'd like, if I was in other people's shoes, I'd want to know too. So there's three things at play here. One is we have a catalyst heavy fall, and I'm of course blacked out when things become material.
Yes.
We're tracking on time and on budget for these things, so there's no problem for me to trade when I'm not blacked out, when I am delivering on my promises. So one thing is just knowing that we're delivering gives me confidence.
Right.
Of course. The second piece is, I mean, the price is crazy.
I
I can't
know.
help but not
I know.
that's not it's not a sales pitch. It's just math. So looking at the cash that we have in hand and the price that we're trading at relative to most of our peers, I can't help but buy. And then, the third piece is just wanting to increase my position, because I think,
Huge growth
you know,
opportunity.
yeah, it's a growth opportunity. And I didn't, the way that we set up our stock, I didn't take a huge amount of founder shares. I didn't take a huge amount, we wanted to make sure that the people who brought the capital to the deal made the money.
Right.
And I believe the same thing today. So the people who put their money where their mouth is should increase their wallet size. And yeah, and so I just want to keep
Nothing wrong with that, right?
well, I think there's what a lot of investors don't look at is the actual capital structure of these companies. And
Right.
when they do look, and if they do, and they see that the founders are sitting on a whole mountain of 2-cent paper and they're doing all these things, like the incentive for the leaders to really deliver results can be different based on how we structure our capitalization
Absolutely.
out of the gate. And so I think that's another reason why,
Well,
it's important for me to keep investing.
vote of investor confidence, that's for sure. Lastly, let's talk about Ibogaine with the recent launch of your second stage of manufacturing pharmaceutical grade Ibogaine. You're increasingly viewed as a major player in the field of Ibogaine drug development and research. So what does this mean moving forward? Will it lead to more, I guess, production, distribution, research development, or really both?
Yeah, in our case, it is both. So for investors, I think it's important to talk about two things. One is the process of drug development.
Yep.
You start out at the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then on to FDA approval. And phase 1 is, and 2 can, well, 1 predominantly is animal models. In order to get to that phase, you need consistent supply. That's one thing that's been lacking with Ibogaine. There are semi-synthesis out there. That means there's some extraction from a plant that has variability. And so with our Ibogaine program, we're ensuring we have consistent supply of pharmaceutical grade or Ibogaine. And so what this launch of the second phase for us is allowing us to supply people who are going into animal models to do research. So there's a revenue stream there for us. And then the second thing is, of course, we can do our own research with the Ibogaine.
Right.
And as this proceeds, the idea is that we become the owner of the drug master file for this Ibogaine program. And so we become the supplier of Ibogaine to those who've done the research. So, and then we have our own research program.
Excellent. Well, listen, I know you're busy. You just took some time off, correct?
I did. I went fishing on the West Coast. That's kind of what I do when I take my time off. Yeah, we got some salmon and lingcod, and it was a great time.
Well, that's excellent. Well, welcome back as we gear up for Q4. It's go time now, is it not?
It's go time. It's go time. It's my favorite time, really. That's what we're here to do.
I always find best advancements for any industry. If you had to pick any certain time of year, it's Labor Day to Christmas, and it goes by so fast, but it's exciting to say the least. And I think a lot of people are very curious to see how this is all going to unfold, especially in wake of obviously the research that Compass will release in October. But companies like yourself continue to process and move forward, and appreciate obviously the update here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Shad.
All right. Thanks, Kelsey. Keep in touch.